Hello everybody. Apology for the delay in this lecture. Now there was a question after my second lecture as to dysplasia and IBD. Now that's a question which is frequently asked in exam, and this is something that you will deal in your day-to-day practice. Now before I go on to explain to you dysplasia in the context of IBD, I just want to clear the morphology of a low grade versus a high grade dysplasia, because I have seen many times my students are not very sure-footed when it comes to distinguishing between low grade and high grade dysplasia. Now, if you remember, all of this I am talking first in context of colon. Now, if you remember your colon histology, most of the crypts, they are extremely rich in goblet cells or mature goblet cells. So, tend to appear much more paler. Now, what happens when you have a low grade dysplasia versus a high grade dysplasia? Now, a normal crypt is something where you will see overwhelmingly mature goblet cells. The colonic enterocytes, they have extremely small basal appearing nucleoli, and majority of course are your goblet cells. Now, when it comes to a low grade dysplasia, the first thing that you will appreciate is that there is sort of a mucodepletion. The mature goblet cells significantly reduces, and if you see those individual crypts, you will find that the nuclei, they tend to be elongated. Some people call this what is known as pencillation. They appear like a pencil shape. They are elongated. They become hyperchromatic. There will be some sort of stratification. You may see mitosis, but that is only restricted to the basal area, that is this area. What you don't see is no complete loss of polarity. You don't see that. What you don't see is nucleoli. So these are absent. And what you don't see is mitosis in surface. So, when you see only these features, that's when you call it a low grade dysplasia. In a high grade dysplasia, what happens is the nuclei, not only they become enlarged, they tend to become what is known as a little roundening up. So, there is an enlargement as well as a roundening up of the nuclei. Of course, they will have coarse chromatin, or what we call as hyperchromasia. More importantly, they have prominent nucleoli. There is a complete loss of polarity. Complete loss of polarity. They will be here, 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 everywhere. And you will see that there are mitoses which is reaching right up to the luminal surface. Only when you have these features, that's when you will call or label something as a high grade dysplasia. So coming on to little bit explanation of the morphology. If you see here, the top half, you can see the normal crypts, very rich in mature goblet cells. Look at the bottom half here. First thing, looks very mucodepleted, and of course you can appreciate very well the nuclei are enlarged. They are looking more bluer, that is there more chromatin is there. But there is not a complete loss of polarity. Neither is there any attempt to reach up to the luminal surface. So it's almost, this is what a normal mucosa, and this is what a low grade dysplastic mucosa will look when you will see at a low power. You can distinctly see the contrast. So this is a higher power. You see the nuclei have become what is known as elongated or pencillate. And there is some sort of overlapping happening here, that is stratification. But none of them have reached the luminal surface. The luminal surface is free of the nuclei. They are still here, everywhere in the basal. Even if you see mitosis, they will also be in the basal layer. And there are of course no nucleoli. Contrast this to one. There is nuclear enlargement, but the nuclei tend to become more oval to round. You can see this nucleoli, they are winking at you even at a lower magnification. You will see mitosis here readily apparent, plus they are more and more going towards the luminal aspect. And the nuclei have completely lost its polarity. They are just everywhere. So when you see these features, only then it qualifies for a high grade dysplasia. This distinction is very important. You have to be extremely sure when you write your report. It doesn't matter whether it's IBD or any other situation, you should be able to recognize low grade versus high grade. Look at here, once again reiterating the same fact: pencillation, stratification, elongation, hyperchromasia, but everything is still restricted to the basal half of the crypts without extending to the luminous surface. Round enlargement and roundening up of nuclei, nucleoli, complete loss of polarity, nuclei reaching up to the luminous surface, mitosis present in the luminous surface. So this is the cytological distinction between a low grade and a high grade dysplasia. Now coming back to a dysplasia in the context of IBD. Now we all know that in IBD the incidence or the risk of having a colorectal adenocarcinoma is increased compared to a normal population. Depending upon what study you follow, they say a prevalence of approximately 3.5% and an incidence of 4 per 1,000 persons per year. That's the incidence that is roughly quoted when it comes to IBD. More which you see compared to Crohn's disease. But with Crohn's, the problem is, in addition to colorectal adenocarcinoma, there is also a small increase in risk of having a small intestine adenocarcinoma. So naturally, these patients are put in something what is known as a colorectal adenocarcinoma surveillance program. Very prevalent in Western countries, maybe not so in our country. Now, how does the dysplasia present in IBD? The thing with IBD is the dysplasia. Now, first of all, the endoscopies will definitely do an endoscopy. The dysplasia in IBD, they can either present as a flat lesion or as an elevated lesion. Now this flat lesion is a problem. Why is it a problem? Very obvious. Endoscopist cannot see it because it is flat. Endoscopy can't see. It is flat. So naturally, they are not going to give you a targeted biopsy because they can't see it. Therefore, the recommendation is every 10 centimeter of the colon, starting from your rectum, you take what is known as, or the endoscopists take what is known as a 4-quadrant biopsy. The logic is, if you do such an extensive sampling, you increase the likelihood of picking up a flat dysplastic lesion. But on the flip side, you will end up getting some 30 to 40 biopsies from a single patient who is on a surveillance follow-up protocol. But this is the recommendation when you are using, or when an endoscopist is using a normal endoscope. So for every 10 centimeter of the colon, a 4-quadrant biopsy is taken, only to increase the sensitivity of picking up the flat dysplastic lesion. Now comes the elevated part. Now, if the dysplastic lesion is elevated, the endoscopist can easily see it. So from his perspective, he can take a location guided biopsy and send it to you. Fine. But now the problem is with the pathologist. See, an elevated lesion can present like a patch. It can present like a plaque. It can even present like a polyp. It can be a sessile polyp. It can be a pedunculated polyp. So if it presents like a polyp, the problem is this polyp a colitis associated dysplasia, or this polyp is just a sporadic adenoma that happens to happen in a IBD patient? It can be simple coincidence. The patient is an IBD, but he or she just developed a sporadic adenoma, a mere coincidence. That's also a possibility. So why do we need to distinguish whether the elevated dysplastic lesion that we are seeing is a colitis associated dysplasia or is it simply a sporadic adenoma? Because there are treatment implications. I'll mention what is it. If it is a sporadic adenoma, okay, like any adenoma, it can be tubular, tubulovillous or villous, but a sporadic adenoma, a mere polypectomy, if it is done, that's curative. As a histopathologists, we will establish the histology, we will also talk about the margin status, and that's about it. The treatment, that is considered to be the treatment. But if you have a patient with, say, an elevated or a polypoidal lesion in IBD, and in histology you report that as a colitis associated dysplasia. Suppose you report it as a colitis associated high grade dysplasia, this becomes an indication for a proctocolectomy, a very morbid surgery. If you report it as a low-grade dysplasia, then there are further protocol. These patients will go for annual or biannual surveillance to follow them up. So if you report a colitis associated dysplasia as high grade, patient straight away will probably be recommended for proctocolectomy. But if you report a sporadic, say a villous adenoma with high grade dysplasia, then a mere polypectomy should be a sufficient treatment. So you can imagine the huge treatment implication. But in practice, how do we distinguish between the two factors, whether it's a colitis associated dysplasia or it is simply a sporadic adenoma? Not always easy to do so. Easier said than actually done. But there are few clues which sometimes can assist us. Now those clues are, they say that if you are dealing with a colitis associated dysplasia, that means a dysplasia which is because of IBD, they tend to be patchy. That means you will have normal crypts and abnormal crypts which are coexistent with each other in the same field. So that patchiness is favor in a colitis associated dysplasia, as opposed to your sporadic adenoma, which are not so patchy. They tend to be having a uniform appearance. That's one way that they say that you can distinguish. The second thing is, most of the time, if there is a polypoidal lesion which is suspected to be a dysplastic lesion in an IBD, the endoscopist is also urged to give us the adjoining mucosa biopsy, the adjoining flat mucosa biopsy. That's also given to us. Reason being, if you see a dysplasia in the polyp, plus if the adjoining mucosa, which is a flat mucosa, if the adjoining flat mucosa also shows dysplasia, then this is likely associated with colitis. On the other hand, in a sporadic adenoma, the polypoidal lesion will only show you the dysplasia. The adjoining flat mucosa will not show you any evidence. Usually, the word is usually, will not show you any dysplasia. So that these are other way of saying. But again, as said, it's easier said than actually practiced. But one should always make an attempt to do so, because as I told you, huge treatment implications. So here I have a picture for you. These are all pictures from established articles. These are not my pictures. So you can see here, you can see these are normal crypts. Very rich in mature goblet cells. Look here. The first thing that strikes you is these crypts are, in addition, of course, they are architecturally bad, distorted. They look very mucodepleted. They have these nuclei which are definitely enlarged, elongated, pencil shaped, but the surface or the luminal aspect is still free. Whatever busyness is happening, whatever abnormality is happening is all restricted to the basal area. So these are all dysplastic crypts, which by definition will only go up to a low grade dysplasia. So this is how a colitis associated low grade dysplasia will look like, whether it's a flat lesion or it's an elevated lesion. This is a colitis associated high grade dysplasia. You can see that the nuclei are markedly enlarged, rounded with nucleoli. They are complete loss of polarity. They are reaching up to the luminal aspect. Mitosis is readily apparent. And of course, there is architectural abnormality. There is increase in number of crypt profiles also. So this is a colitis associated high grade dysplasia. Now, as I told you in my second lecture, that dysplasia in IBD has a 4-tier classification. Number 1 is no evidence of dysplasia. Number 2 is indefinite for dysplasia. Indefinite for dysplasia. Then of course LGD, low grade, and HGD or high grade. Now this and this is not an issue for any histopathologist. Problem is here. There is a lot of inter-observer disagreement when it comes to indefinite and low grade. When to restrict yourself to only indefinite? When can you go one step further and call it a low grade? Now, although there is not much of a consensus, but the general dictum is, if you see very patchy dysplastic change. That means dysplastic change in some crypts, like for example this crypt. You can see there is elongation of nuclei and all those features that I described to you in low grade. All of these features can be appreciated in this crypt. But this feature is very patchy, and this feature is in immediate vicinity to a crypt which is showing you active lesion, that is cryptapsis cryptitis. Such an instance where the dysplastic feature is very patchy and it is present in a background of an extremely inflamed mucosa, that is lot of activity, erosion, ulceration, cryptitis, cryptapsis is there, it is better to downgrade and call it as indefinite for dysplasia rather than calling it a low grade dysplasia. That's the practical rule that we follow, but still there is a lot of inter-observer disagreement when it comes to these two categories. So this is your sporadic adenomas. As we all know, it can be of three types: tubular, tubulovillous, and villous adenoma. And even if a sporadic adenoma occurs in an IBD, the histology is going to be exactly the same as we would see in any other person. Now, as I told you, this indefinite dysplasia and this low grade dysplasia, they are tricky because there is no established protocol as to how to follow up these patients. High grade dysplasia, easy. Straight away proctocolectomy is recommended. So some authors, they have tried to use adjunctive IHC markers just to increase their sensitivity of predicting a colorectal carcinoma progression. One of them being a P53. They say that P53 is very crucial for carcinogenesis. For the final step of colorectal carcinogenesis is very crucial. So if there is an increased expression of P53 in the dysplastic glands, likelihood of that patient progressing to a colorectal adenocarcinoma is more. So these patients will be followed up at much lesser intervals as opposed to those who have a low expression. But these are not foolproof. So there have been studies where they have used P53. There are studies where they have even used Amacar. So P53 and Amacar have been used to just increase the sensitivity of knowing how a low-grade dysplasia might behave when you do a form. Now I want to draw your attention to this particular study. I was a co-author in this study which came out from AIIMS in 2016, where we did a surveillance biopsy in ulcerative colitis patient. There were 28 patients and they all fulfill the criteria of high risk. High risk means those who have extensive disease, pancolitis, a long duration of disease, that is more than 1 decade, who have severe disease, active disease. 2 of them also had associated primary sclerosing cholangitis. All of these are considered high risk. So all IBD patients are not at high risk. These cohort of patients who have pancolitis, active disease, disease duration of more than a decade, associated other things like primary sclerosing cholangitis, they are called as high risk cohort among the IBD patients. So these 28 patients had all of these high risk features. We did this 10 centimeter 4 quadrant biopsy protocol and an average 33 biopsies per patients were seen. So more than 900 biopsies we had seen. We did not see any low grade dysplasia or high grade dysplasia in any of them. In a minuscule percentage, 0.7%, we did see an indefinite for dysplasia category, but we did not see. So whatever prevalence and incidence that we know of, they are all established from large scale Western studies. In our Indian context, it is still not clear how common this dysplasia or malignancy is. But having said that, I want to draw your attention to one thing, is that in my practice as an individual histopathologist, over more than 500 colorectal biopsies that I have seen for IBD in the last 3 years, I have seen 2 cases of a high-grade dysplasia as well as an adenocarcinoma. They have not been picked up on endoscopies, but they have been picked up on histology. So although the incidence in India is probably lower, the prevalence is probably lower, but that doesn't mean that it's not there. So one cannot let their guard down. Always keep your eye open for dysplasia when you're reporting a biopsy of IBD. Thank you. कितना बहुत लंबा